Hello everyone, this is part 48 of What If Naruto Had the Ultimate Dojutsu, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist. To see more, comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Your human lives mean nothing to me, Nura said, glaring at Konan. She snarled at him, but she then quickly tried to nurse her wound with what little medical ninjutsu she knew. She then stood to her feet and tried her best to calm down from what had just happened. It was nearly impossible to just sneak on Konan, and this man did it easily. It had just and Konan had seen it coming, which had given her a nasty surprise. She could tell from the way that this man looked that he had the stance of someone with an intelligence much beyond his years. He only seemed to be in his mid-30s or so. After taking a good look at him, Konan maintained her composure. Too many people had been stupid and had tried to attack Pain and Konan before, but none of them ever succeeded, or so she had figured. Not like most of them had ever passed her to even get to him. Who are you and what are your intentions? I would like to have these answered before you face the wrath of God's angel. Attacking me has resulted in your death, Konan stated. Nura narrowed his eyes and shook his head. I'm the one asking the questions here, insect. I do not answer to you. I care not for what my attacking you has done. You are an obstacle to my knowledge. Also, Kami-sama doesn't have angels. She had advisors and warriors. Nura shouted as he appeared in front of Konan. She was quickly surprised as she waved her hand and a wall of paper appeared between her and Nura. Konan's paper, when infused with chakra, was even stronger than steel itself. It was one of her best defenses. Nura grabbed a hold of his sword as it blazed in white fire. He forward and Konan gasped as he easily through her defense. It was only by her innate ability of defense that she dodged his blade aimed for her T. She had ducked under it and she watched behind her as the white fire exploded from Nura's sword and went flying into a building, making it burn. She didn't seem shaken by it. She quickly backed away from Nura while the man quickly assumed another stance. You're gifted, but you are nothing before God's angel, Konan said, making Nura all the most irritated. He absolutely hated it when this lower life forms had the goal to call themselves divine by their own means. They knew nothing of the true divine. Angels, demon, devils, they have these pathetic monikers and they have no idea of true warriors, demons or devils. This was why humanity was still a primitive species. HMPH Kami-sama would never accept such trash as her angel, if such things existed. Very well, I feel just a little more pleasant today. How about I show you that you are nothing before Kami-sama's celestial dragon lord, Nura said, and Konan raised an eyebrow. Nura held his sword overhead and grinned. Tandaishu, single great division, Nura shouted and his sword against the ground, releasing a wave of fire towards Konan's body. The blue-haired woman gasped as she quickly jumped into the air. Nura watched as paper collected on her back and began to spread as wings. He watched her hover over him while looking down at him with a condescending look. Nura snarled while he straightened up. Who did this insect think she was looking down at? It better not have been him. He was a world better than her. The only reason she could even be alive at the moment was because he wanted to draw this fight out long enough for this so-called God to present himself to Nura so that the Dragon Lord could dethrone his pride. Konan looked back and she saw the fire well off and into the water, and it exploded far off. She was certainly surprised by the intensity of such power, as she had never seen someone do that before, other than Pain, but seeing it like this, then she came to a decision. This man is dangerous. I'll have to lead him out of Omegakure if I'm going to deal with him, Konan thought to herself. Nura matched her glare against him while Konan quickly flew off. Nura raised an eyebrow, but he quickly hopped against the buildings as he ran after her. He really hated it, but he had to admit that Tai was the best out of the both of them, and the lone reason for that was because Tai was able to manifest dragon wings using his white fire without transforming into his dragon state. Nura had tried that for a while, but he had never succeeded. It was one of the reasons why Tai could beat him. He had aerial combat capabilities, which really pissed Nura off, and seeing someone lower than him, like Konan, fly around was just an insult. However, he easily kept with her as they left the village and appeared on the water. Conan stopped flying and landed down. It is here that I have decided your grave, Conan said while Nura snorted. Is that a fact? How your species' hubris has grown in the few short centuries I've been away. You really need to be taught your place again, Nura said, and Conan quickly assumed a stance. Nura did the same and both were ready to continue before they each heard a noise. Bansho Tenon, heavenly attraction of all creation. Nura instantly felt himself in the grip of a very strong force as he went flying. He managed to turn his head just in time to see Pain right behind him. Nura was grabbed and then kicked across the waters and into the shores of Omegakure. He coughed slightly and opened his eyes while Conan appeared near Nagato. Has it really taken you this long to deal with an intruder such as this? Pain asked while Conan gave an earnest bow. Forgive me, Pain-sama, Conan said to him. Pain narrowed his eyes back to where Nura crashed. He saw Nura walked back onto the water as he dusted off his clothes. He seemed fine and Nura glanced back to Pain. They eyed each other respectively while Conan had to watch the two of them interact. Neither said anything to the other, and Sir Pain opened his mouth first. Coming to attack this place was a mistake. A mistake that you shall not live to regret. Those who attack God will receive his judgment, Pain said, and Nura closed his eyes. So you're the one who slanders my master's name. Just looking at you is enough. You're hardly at the Rikido Sennin's level. To defeat you is only a mere pain, Nura said, and Pain turned back to Conan. He could see a few of her scars before turning back. Which country has sent you? I shall let them know, Pain, before they Pain announced. Nura lightly chuckled and shook his head. He tapped the hilt of his sword numerously while he looked into the rain as it poured over his body. It's a good day for it to rain, Nura exclaimed suddenly. The rain washed against his body and his clothes, and he looked at the waters he was standing on. He then looked up as he noticed Pain's eyes on his body. I know those eyes well. Humans call it the Rinnegan. I have always hated those eyes. If you have those, then, Nura took out his sword and pointed it towards Pain. Quote, ... It is my sworn duty to KU, Nura told him. Pain narrowed his eyes dangerously, and if it wasn't for his serious nature then he would have laughed at such words. Conan looked between them both. Now she knew it for sure. This man was different, and when Nagato survived then he might be needing new B. Far away, Toby watched the battle with interest. He narrowed his visible eye, but behind his mask he was grinning at these new developments. He really didn't know Sato's full capabilities as too much free control, and he could very well break his genjutsu that he had over him, but if there were more just like him then maybe this wouldn't be so bad after all. It was something to keep an eye on. With Team Nana, the sounds of fighting could be heard everywhere as Team Nana and Team Gurren fought with each other. The battlefield was up in explosions once again that early morning. Gurren and her team had tried to get an early start in capturing the Sanbi for Orochimaru and Akatsuki, but that was proving to be difficult right now. Nanabe had anticipated that action and they had waited for the right time to act, which was then. They had all only just begun to start fighting, and Nanabe had noticed that Sanbi was doing his best not to surface to Yukimaru's screaming. She had known why also. It's because if he was there then it'd be even more complicated than it already was. Sasuke kicked Juugo into the air, getting a groan from the man, while the Uchiha quickly grabbed the Raijin and brought it back. He shouted as he swung it forward and made it into Juugo's body. The young man groaned against the lightning current that came across his body. He snarled at Sasuke and surprised the Uchiha as he grabbed the hilt of his sword. It's because of you that Kimimaro-san betrayed Orochimaru. If you had just come then he could have been there and helped me. I will make you regret it, Juugo said, and Sasuke narrowed his eyes dangerously. He gasped as Juugo's curse mark covered his entire body. He cackled madly while Sasuke seemed sort of surprised. Juugo quickly brought his fist back while he cackled. He hollered as he his fist into Sasuke's stomach. He chuckled lightly, but he was then surprised as Sasuke looked at him with a grin of his own. Juugo cursed as he quickly used his other fist to punch. He punched Sasuke multiple times and he finally looked down to see purple skeletal ribs protecting the Uchiha. Why can't I hit you? Juugo asked while Sasuke snorted. He quickly held out his hand as he started to cackle from lightning. Chidori Iso, Sasuke said as he blasted the Chidori in a spear as it pinned Juugo into a tree. Juugo cursed as the blonde dripped from his arm, not allowing him to move. Sasuke raised his raijin into the air. This is the end, Sasuke said as he brought his sword down. However, he was forced to dodge as he quickly jumped away from a wave of crystals. He looked back as he noticed Gurren glaring at him heatedly. Sasuke cursed as he noticed Karen next to Juugo. She stared sadly at Sasuke, but the Uchiha wasn't going to be giving her an emotion this time. They had their talk and they had decided on where they stood. Far off, Tayuya, Haku, Hana and Hinata were busy making the seal while Kiba and Kimimaro guarded them against. It was tedious work too. Simply because Nanabe was busy dealing with Sato, and while no one knew why she was having trouble in dealing with someone like him, they all knew that her orders went on this mission. Sasuke and Kimimaro might have been Tokubutsu Jonin and Jonin level, they still had to assumption that Naruto placed Nana in charge for a reason. One that Kimimaro knew, but wasn't going to talk about if he didn't need to. Is this done yet? Tayuya asked, pouring chakra into the seal along with Hinata, Haku and Hana. They all had to give up on the current jobs of fighting and stick to the plan, which was to create this seal, exploit the Sanbi if it emerged and neutralize it. You know how long it is supposed to take. We have the control to do this, so we'll do it, Hana reprimanded. Tayuya just groaned and nodded while Haku and Hinata continued in their section of the seal. Hana heard Kiba curse and wanted to look up, but she heard Kiba shout. Stick to the plan, he shouted. Hana forced her eyes down along with her worries for her brother. How could she not? He was facing their father along with Akamaru and the Heimaru brothers. Kimimaro was dealing with Sugetsu, who had just caught Haku's blade. He widened his eyes and grinned. Kimimaro, you really were stupid to betray Orochimaru-sama. He was just about to cure you. How you're still alive I have no idea. I figured that you would have croaked by now. Also, that sword, is that what I think it is? Sugetsu asked, trying to fight past Kimimaro. The UNI clan member narrowed his eyes as he blocked Sugetsu with an armful of his bones. Both clashed against each other as Sugetsu gritted his sharp teeth at Kimimaro, and in turn Kimimaro glared right back at him. I have been cured and Haku-san's sword won't be your business once you're Kimimaro answered while Sugetsu was less than pleased with those answers. He just swung his makeshift crystal sword, that Gurren made for him, at Kimimaro and he blocked it again. Kimimaro heard Kiba scream as he turned his head to see Kobayashi kick Kiba across the ground. The young Inuzuka growled while his father chuckled. Is that all, pup? Kobayashi asked. With the Heimaru brothers dealt with Ayaka, or at least they tried. Kiba hopped to his feet and quickly dropped on all fours. He dashed at his father while Kobayashi quickly followed after him. They both bashed into each other as Kobayashi spoke. I'm not even using my curse mark here, brat. Gonna have to pump it up, Kobayashi continued, getting Kiba more irritated. Akamaru, go! Kiba shouted and Kobayashi looked to see Akamaru barked as the large dog spun violently towards Kobayashi. The former mate of Sume grinned madly as he jumped out of the way, causing Kiba to fall forward. Kiba was able to rebound and quickly landed, but he noticed Kobayashi overhead as he grinned insanely. Kobayashi grabbed Kiba's head and quickly swirled him through the air before he crashed into the ground. As he landed, Kobayashi seemed surprised as in Kiba's place was a log. He narrowed his eyes, but his nose twitched and he turned his head in time to see Kiba swipe his long nails at his face. Kobayashi couldn't dodge in time as he got swiped across the eye. He groaned while Kiba landed with a smirk. How's that, you bastard? Kiba asked while and immediately cursed as he saw his father chuckling. That's it, pup, that's it. Just like that. Keep it up and I might just acknowledge your efforts. Kobayashi goaded as his curse mark slowly began to creep across his face. Kiba was ready for anything, but he was surprised that his dad didn't have it form over his entire body as Sume and Naruto had told him that night. Pay close attention, brat. You're about to learn the second move that I learned in that little form of yours. Ayaka. Kobayashi shouted and Naruto saw one of the Heimaru brothers growl as he was in the head by Ayaka's paw. She grinned and nodded as she raced towards Kobayashi and the group. Akamaru. Kiba shouted and Akamaru barked as he landed near Kiba just in time as Ayaka did the same with Kobayashi. If Kiba had an idea of what his father was going to really do, then he would need to work together with Akamaru now. Kiba and Kobayashi formed their hand signs. Jinju Konbi Henge, Sotaro, Human Beast Combination Transformation, double-headed wolf, Kiba and Kobayashi shouted at the same time. Kimimaro and Sugetsu stopped their fighting as they saw a white-haired double-headed wolf snarl as it watched more smoke disperse. In it was a black-haired two-headed wolf as it growled dangerously at the smaller one. Is it finished? Kimimaro asked as Haku nodded. Yeah, we're going off now, Haku said, and Kimimaro nodded back to her statement. Sugetsu watched them run and he growled while looking back at Kimimaro. You won't get away. Suten, Suiruden no Jutsu, Sugetsu shouted. The water dragon sprang from the water and raced towards them all. They were ready for anything as they saw the large dragon come towards them. Sugetsu grinned, but his face suddenly turned to shock as he watched the Heimaru brother spin rapidly against the dragon, see it to shred as it splashed against the ground. Sugetsu cursed, but he then saw bones sticking out of his body. He turned to see Kimimaro with his hand while Sugetsu chuckled. I'm water full. You can't hurt me like that, Sugetsu said, and Kimimaro nodded. He closed his eyes and Sugetsu gasped as Kimimaro opened his eyes. He narrowed them while his hands began to cackle. Then I am thankful to Naruto-sama for letting me know of my rate and affinity, Kimimaro said, and Sugetsu gasped as he was easily E by Kimimaro's technique. He screamed before he fell to the ground unconscious. Kimimaro slightly panted before he took a calcium pills. It's not like he could bring actual milk to the battlefield. He then took out a scroll and S the ground. Fuin, Tenpu Kai, ceiling, fierce world binding, Kimimaro muttered, and out of the scroll came 3 chains that bound Sugetsu while restricting his chakra flow. Kimimaro placed him near a tree and ran off. He would have to leave Kobayashi and Kiba alone for just a little longer. Kobayashi and Kiba growled to each other while Kobayashi smirked on his side. Say goodbye, pup, Kobayashi growled as he and Ayaka jumped into the air. Kiba and Akamaru nodded to each other and did the same. Garuga, Kiba and Akamaru shouted as they blazed through the field in a fierce rotating swirl towards Kobayashi. Said Inuzuka chuckled and shook his head. Chu Garuga, Super Wolf Passing Fang, Kobayashi shouted as he and Ayaka did the same, but increased in speed as they all S into each other. Kiba and Akamaru growled, but they were easily overpowered as Kobayashi and Ayaka blasted past them, causing the duo to S into the ground as they rolled through and S into the water. Kobayashi and Ayaka landed while Kobayashi shook his head. It wasn't that he was weak, he said, and Ayaka turned to him. Quote. It's just that I was too strong. He continued while Ayaka nodded. Foolish boy, she said, and they quickly raced off after the others. With Nanabe continued to clash with Sato as they too continued in their own little fight. Nana could tell from this fight that Sato wasn't himself. He was too laid back and uncaring. He was still as strong as ever, but he wasn't fighting to K anyone. He was just fighting like he was ordered to. Nanabe widened her eyes as she quickly backed away from Sato. He swung his sword at her while Nanabe blocked it with a kunai. She swirled to the side and she quickly noticed that Sanbi was starting to emerge. Nana said as she turned back to Sato. She was ready to unleash something else in her arsenal, but she then noticed Sato stop fighting. She narrowed her eyes while Sato looked at the ground. Leave this fight. It is not your concern anymore, a voice said, and Sato knew this voice very well. His master was trying to talk with him. Sato just nodded absently while he looked up at Nanabe, whose eyes held a burning fury that couldn't be sated with nothing less than his death. Sato didn't understand this, but he didn't want to. He had his orders. I shall not be meeting you again, but I will leave a parting gift. Tenchi no Senso, warring heaven and earth, Sato called out as his blade bursted in a black aura that Nanabe knew very well. She raced towards him in haste to stop him, but she was instantly blocked by a crystal shield from Gurren. Sato raised an eyebrow while Nanabe snarled. You fool. Don't let him fire that. Nanabe shouted while Gurren narrowed her eyes. You will not interfere, Gurren said and smiled as the Sanbi emerged right behind them. Nanabe cursed out loud before she punched Yuki through her body and crushed Gurren's crystal, surprising the blue-haired woman as she was sent flying through the trees, but she gave Sato the time that he needed and he swung the sword forward. Nanabe jumped out of the way of the blast and turned around. Look out, Nanabe shouted as a large wave of dark energy went past her. She gasped as the ceiling team looked back. Tayuya grabbed Hinata and Haku as they rolled to the side. Hana jumped over the way as it went flying towards them all. Karen coughed as she looked at the incoming wave of power while Sasuke growled. Kiba! Hana shouted while Kiba and Akamaru emerged from the water. They could see the wave coming for them all as they quickly dove back down. Sanbi caught the wave of black energy on a collision course with his body and quickly opened his mouth. No Yukimaru! Guren shouted from behind the trees. Yukimaru didn't hear her as no one was remotely close to him. Guren widened her eyes as the black energy overcame him while Sanbi fired a water blast as it pierced the dark energy causing it to diverge off and into the mountains. Everyone watched as the mountains slowly crumbled away into nothingness. Karen and Juugo gasped while Sasuke seemed speechless. Kobayashi and Ayaka were both surprised at what they had seen and Guren quickly pushed Nanabe out of the way and raced towards Yukimaru. She quickly held him up in her arms while she shook him. Yukimaru, are you alright? Say something. Guren said while Yukimaru coughed. He opened his eyes slightly and smiled. Guren Nichan, he said while Guren smiled. Oh, you're alright, she said and Yukimaru coughed as he smiled. Guren-chan, I'm sleepy, Yukimaru said and Guren could see the deep gash on around his cloak. Yukimaru smiled while Guren chuckled. She looked down and noticed Yukimaru's feet beginning to fade in darkness. She turned back while Yukimaru heard the Sanbi roar. Isabu glared at Sato and thrashed wildly, but Guren turned him back to her. Don't worry about that. We'll be fine, Yukimaru. Orochimaru-sama will fix you up, Guren said and Yukimaru smiled. I always wanted to live with you, Guren-chan. I endured it all because you were precious to me. I'm sorry I let you down, Yukimaru said while Guren shook her head. She clenched Yukimaru's B-vest and brought him closer. You said you were sleepy, right? Well, I need you to stay awake. Just please, just stay awake, Guren said and Yukimaru smiled. I'll try, but it's kind of hard, Guren-chan. Yukimaru coughed and Guren looked down to see the flames were now to Yukimaru's sea. She sighed and turned back. Are you crying, Guren-chan? Yukimaru asked and Guren snorted. Baka, why would I do that over you? Guren asked as she covered Yukimaru's eyes. She couldn't trust him to look at her at the moment. Guren-chan, do you know what my dream was? Yukimaru asked and Guren shook her head. She turned back and she saw Yukimaru's lasting smile. My dream was to always. Yukimaru faded into black leaves and disappeared completely while Guren watched the leaves scatter to the wind. Everyone was surprised while Nanabe looked at the ground. Tenchi no Senso, a move known only to Sato Saranzo. The use of the Raijin to call on the flames of hell to devour anything and everything that they hit. A technique that can only be used once every year. To think he would use it here. He really is under control. Even he wouldn't use that move needlessly. Wait, Sato! Nana shouted as she turned around, but Sato was already gone. Seeing that, Kobayashi snickered while he and Ayaka nodded to each other. Well, it was fun, brats. Sorry about the little brat. Kid never saw it coming, Kobayashi said before his transformation stopped and the smoke entered the area allowing for his escape to happen along with Ayaka. Guren just sat on the beach where Yukimaru's body was. The only thing left of him was nothing. She had nothing to hold on to as she had clung to his S-form. Her eyes just on the ground where the small footprints of Yukimaru used to be. Guren shivered and clutched her body while she cursed. She didn't care anymore. F all this S. Let them capture her, K her, interrogate her. None of it mattered. What was the point of this S? Where was the world headed? What the F was she doing in thinking of following F orders and bringing him out here? What did he do to deserve this? He did nothing. She had been warned and she ignored it. Why did she? Answer, she was just looking out to please the one person who didn't even want her in the first place. Just her abilities. Juugo, we have to get out of here. Karen said before she felt Sasuke's sword to her T. Move and I'll K you both, Sasuke told them. Karen flinched while Juugo said nothing. Across the shore, the Sanbi continued to rage around looking for Sato, who had already left. Isabu's three tails thrashed against the water and the mainland as everyone had to shift their balance. Everyone gasped as they saw the Sanbi throwing water shot after water shot against the trees, destroying everything that his eyes were settling on. He knew that technique and it brought back some rather horrifying memories. Oi Isabu, what are you doing? Nanabe shouted as she dodged a water shot from the Sanbi. Everyone else quickly assumed their own functions as Kiba and Akamaru climbed out of the water with some help from the Heimaru brothers. They coughed and leaned against the shore while Nanabe shouted, "Use it now." Nanabe shouted and the others just nodded. Tayuya grabbed Hinata as the latter gave the seal to Haku. Haku quickly gave it to Hana while the female Inuzuka jumped into the air. Haku took her sword and landed on the water. Hana landed on the flat end of the sword while Haku grunted. "You're heavy, you know," Haku said while Hana pouted. "Whatever, just do it already," Hana said and Haku nodded. She grunted as she didn't account for Hana's weight over her sword. She was lucky to have Tsunad's training. Suten, Kairu Iponzioi, water release, ocean current shoulder toss, Haku muttered as she swung her sword forward sending Hana, covered in a lovely shower of water, towards the Sanbi with the sealing tag in her hands. She quickly landed in front of him and s the seal forward. Kai! Hana shouted and the Sanbi suddenly stopped. Everything was calm. The waters were quiet, but the field was as destroyed as it could possibly be. No one felt like doing anything as they all saw the Sanbi regress into the water without so much as a second thought. Everyone panted and fell to the ground while they groaned. Hana landed on the ground as everyone panted. Nanabe looked around the field at everyone who was currently there. She didn't know what to make of this situation. She also really didn't think that they would actually need that seal, but it turns out that she was wrong. She looked over to the unmoving Gurren, bound Sugetsu, and captured Juugo and Karen. She sighed while she walked through the beach. She hovered over Gurren and narrowed her eyes. "You're coming with us," Nanabe said and Gurren did nothing. She didn't show any acknowledgement of Nanabe's words nor did she make an attempt to resist and Nanabe grabbed her arms. She just stood to her feet and walked back with Nanabe. She kept muttering something, but Nanabe couldn't hear her. Maybe it was just nonsense. "So, what now?" Kiba asked and Nanabe sighed. "Now, we go home and take these people with us. We did our mission for the most part. We'll have Kiri hold the remains of the Sanbi or post a guard for it when we can." "Good job everyone," Nanabe said and everyone just nodded. Kimimaro grabbed Sugetsu while Sasuke tied up Karen and Juugo, especially Juugo. As everyone got ready to go, Hinata looked at Gurren who just kept looking at the ground. She couldn't hold her head up at the moment. It had surprised everyone what they had just seen, but they had to let it go for right now. With their prisoners, Nanabe and her team quickly left the marsh shores behind. No one felt like talking at the moment at all. They just wanted to rest after what they had seen. Back in Am, Pain glared as he looked at one of his defeated B. The Chikushodo path had been K easily and now he would need a new one. Conan had been watching the entire fight as she was told not to interfere and she had to admit, this was the longest someone had ever fought Pain, and lived. However she couldn't help but feel that he wasn't going to K Pain because he needed information out of him. So far, Nura had been just slightly impressed with the hubris of the man in front of him. He still hated him, but he had to admit that he a very talented fight, for an insect. He glared at Pain and Pain glared back. They were both at a standstill while Nura sheathed his sword. "You are no god. You are barely even a being. You are just an insect. One not even fit to live in this world that Kami-sama has generously given to you," Nura said while Pain narrowed his eyes. "This world is filled with pain. As God it is my duty to bring it to peace." "You know nothing of the true power of God," Pain said and Nura snorted. He shook his head left and right. "Insect thinking will be insect thinking. Opportunists they are, but fools they shall remain forever," Nura said as he grabbed the hilt of his sword and retrieved it from the Chikushodo's body. He assumed a stance while Pain held out his hand. Both were ready to continue before a wormhole appeared. Out of the wormhole was the person who surprised Nura as Sato popped out and landed on the water. Sato stared at the person in front of him while Nura's eyes did little to hide his surprise. "Sato-sama," Nura muttered like he couldn't believe who he was looking at. "Ah, so you do know him?" Nura turned his head as he noticed Toby step out of the portal as well. Nura narrowed his eyes dangerously, but he knew he couldn't move at the most, not unless he could get Sato away from them. "Speaking of which, Sato-sama, what are you doing over there? Do you know how worried your mother is? Get over here," Nura ordered, but Sato made no move to acknowledge said order. Nura raised an eyebrow while Madara smirked. "I see. Well, that's a shame. Sorry, but he won't be returning with you. Right now, he's my little puppet," Toby said with a grin on his face that wasn't seen because of his mask. Nura narrowed his eyes as he looked at Sato's waist. The Raijin. The Kami-sama was right. He really did take it from its resting place. Sato, how far have you fallen? Nura thought to himself. He then noticed the world around him go cold. He could see ice falling into the water, making it freeze. He narrowed his eyes before snorting and easily broke the genjutsu. Appears you really are an insect. Can't get ahead except by leeching off others and their skills. Absolutely predictable. I don't know what you did to Sato-sama, but you're going to regret it with your life, Nura said, and Toby chuckled. However, he was obviously surprised that someone actually broke a genjutsu from him. This really was interesting after all. Is that so? Well, if he's important to you, then I really don't care. Sato, K yourself, Toby ordered. Sato closed his eyes as he took the Raijin front its sheath. Its black steel shimmered and he placed it near his head. Sato was ready to do it and obey his master, but then everyone was surprised as the Raijin was knocked from his hand. It went sailing while Nura growled. I, really, don't like being trifled with, Nura said as he clenched his fist. He turned around and glared back. It seems that I have everything that I need to make myself angry at all of you. Have a nice time in hell. Nura shouted as he raised his sword into the air. Shinra Tensei, Nura heard pain shouted and instantly he was blasted away by an unknown force. He went sailing through the air while he tried to rebound. Nura landed on the ground of a Megakure and he noticed Sato right behind him. Snap out of it, Nura begged as Sato rammed his sword into Nura's own. The two clashed sword with each other as they unleashed random short bursts of white fire from their bi. Hei grunted against each other and Nura suddenly found himself fighting against Sato and the other paths of pain. Nura growled against them all. He blocked, dodged, ducked, rolled over. He did all these things as he tried to fight them all. The Predator Path tried to grab him multiple times and Nura dodged all of those attempts. Toby, Nagato, and Conan just watched the action as Nura tried to fight them all. He growled as his sword clashed against Sato's. Nura's sword met the Raijin and Nura gasped as he felt a load of evil energy wash over his body. He was instantly propelled backwards and sent crashing along the ground and into the wall of a nearby building. Nura groaned and growled as he tried to get to his feet. He instantly felt something on top of his head as he glared. Now begins the hour of judgment, the human path said while Nura growled. Slowly Nura's soul began to get pulled from his body. Nura growled and pulled it back. He couldn't move and all he had right now was his will to actually not have his body sullied by insects. The others watched and so did Sato. Toby and Conan looked on at the intruder while Sato growled. He slowly pulsed his energy through his body as he tried to move his hand. He grabbed his sword on the ground and surprised everyone as he s it into the human path. It gasped and Nura could feel his sword grind into its bones before he yanked it out, allowing it to fall. Nura lightly panted while he stood to his feet. Two paths in a single fight. You're slipping, Toby stated. Pain said nothing while the Naraka path s the ground, summoning a being known as the King of Hell. It quickly devoured the human path as it had the animal path. Both disappeared and soon they were spat out by the King of Hell, restored and rejuvenated. Nura sighed and shook his head. You tamper with things that you do not understand, insect. However, I suppose you must have some skill if that guy is working for you. Never really liked you, Jian, Nura said as he shook his head. Man, if he wasn't going to have a headache at the end of this. For someone so why you can't hold your own, Conan said and Nura smiled. It wasn't a condescending smile and he just looked into the sky while he dusted himself off. He slightly nodded and shrugged. Wasn't expecting a full-on fight. Also wasn't expecting to have Sato-sama here. However, do you know something? I feel hot, like really hot. Like I'm burning up and I realized what it is. It's my hatred for what you've done to my master's son, for you in general and for what you actually think you will get away with, Nura said. His heart pumped while Toby chuckled. So you think you know what I want to do? Toby asked and Nura shook his head. Whatever it is foolish, but I suppose you're going to tell me. Fools like you never want to just shut up and fight, Nura said while Toby sighed. Seems that some people were just ignorant in the true ways of the world. Well, you seem keen to know, so I will enlighten you. The goal of us is to create peace, Pain said and Nura raised an eyebrow. He shook his head and sighed. Hollow dream. But all of your dreams are. Now then, Keep going, Nura said, and Pain decided to indulge him a little more. It's not like he was going to be surviving long anyway. I do not need your opinion. We will capture the 9 Bayou and bring them back to one and unleash the ultimate weapon against the nations. For fear of it, they will buy it and use it on their enemies until all are afraid of it. Through pain there shall be peace, Nagato said to him. Silence. Hm. HM. He. Ha 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 ha. Nura laughed uncharacteristically. Sato stood unmoving. Toby raised an eyebrow. Pain seemed annoyed, and Conan was. Conan. They all just watched him laugh, and while Nagato had been called out on his beliefs before, no one ever outright laughed at him, publicly of course. Of course, when you were one of the only 2 celestial dragon lords in the service of Kami, then you could laugh at most things. What do you find amusing? Pain asked, and Nura shook his head. He calmed down quickly and folded his arms. He sighed and caught his breathing. I find your dreams to be audacious at best. You will never have your peace so long as you insects roam the world in my eyes. There is no such thing as man-made peace. It will never happen except by the will of Kami. I came here for what I did. Be gracious, you get to live another day, Nura said while Pain walked up to him. Do you really think that I will allow you to leave after what you know? Pain asked, and Nura snorted. Do you think I actually care? Nura asked before he encased his body in light and vanished easily. Pain glared dangerously, as did Conan and Toby. His presence wasn't anywhere to be felt. He was just gone. So what do we do about this? Conan asked, and Pain turned to Toby. Toby nodded, and Pain walked away. He said nothing to answer Conan's question while Toby just walked away. It is nearly then that Conan felt like something was going on. They were excluding her from things. Maybe her position as the traitor was out to them, or they suspected her. Conan felt like her days were numbered. She hoped that she was making the right choice. Conan quickly walked off to go and get someone to clean up the mess while Sato followed in to step behind her. 1 week later, Hokage Mansion. Naruto caressed Yuna's sleeping form while Nana appeared in his office. When she had finished the details of the mission, Yuna was the only thing that was keeping Naruto from going mental. Her little sleeping was holding back everything. That was reckless, Nana-chan. You could have pulled out and come back. I would have understood if you couldn't complete the mission. Naruto said, and Nana rubbed the back of her head. She nodded with Naruto's statement, but then beamed. But I got the mission done, didn't I? She asked, and Naruto nodded with a chuckle of his lips. He nodded, and both heard Yuna yawn as she opened her mouth and showing her canines. She then went back to sleeping and clutched Naruto's robe possessively. There is no doubting that, Nana-chan. Just be a little more suitable next time. I don't want to lose any of you, Naruto told her. Nanabe appreciated the sentiment while Naruto stood up. He cradled Yuna in his arms while he looked out the window. What's Kyubi-chan so scared of if this guy can be so easily controlled? It makes no sense, Naruto told Nana, and Nanabe shook her head. That's the thing, Hokage-kun. It's not simple, and it's definitely not easy, let alone capable. For someone to control him is like taking control of Tsukasa and having her attack the village, Nanabe said, and Naruto glared dangerously. He sighed heavily and looked down. More Uchiha Madara s ha. That's just great, Naruto thought before nodding. Alright then. How is Guren-san doing? Naruto asked, and Nanabe looked down solemnly. She nodded to Naruto's question and held her head back up. Throughout the whole trip she was quiet. She didn't take to anyone, and she ate nothing. Honestly, if I didn't feed her myself, then she would have fainted, but I heard from Ibiki and Anko. She told them all that she knew about Orochimaru and Akatsuki without even so much as a fight. I think the loss of the young man was hard for her. She just sits in her cell looking at the wall. They got a lot out of Karen and Sugetsu, and we have Juugo in a special prison. I used the seal on Sanbi and he harmlessly regressed into the waters below. I don't know what he'll do now. I told him about Akatsuki, so what he does is on him now, Nanabe said while Naruto nodded. He scratched the back of his head. This was going to be one of the many times that Naruto was going to feel the pressure of the Hokage position. Alright. Nice work, Nana-chan, Naruto said, and Nanabe nodded while she winked. Naruto raised an eyebrow while Nanabe shook her finger. I can tell you're busy, so I will hop by later for my reward. I expect it, Nanabe said, and Naruto blushed while she closed the door. He shook his head and chuckled while he sat back down. Naruto looked out of the window one more time and narrowed his eyes. Great, she saw him and he's being controlled. Well, isn't this AS? Naruto said to himself. He then covered his mouth and looked down to see Yuna still sleeping. She brushed her head to her father's sea and Naruto smiled lovingly. He kissed her cheek and Yuna continued to rest like she always liked. She definitely got that part from her mother. With Gurren, darkness, numbness, shadows, Gurren could feel these things on her as she looked at the wall. She couldn't stop shivering and she felt like she couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, pictures of Yukimaru's smile entered her mind. All he wanted was someone like her to look after him, but she couldn't even do that. She opened her hand and it was the only thing, by order of Nanabe to the guards, that Gurren was allowed to keep. A simple necklace that Yukimaru handed to her before he passed on the battlefield. Gurren clenched it and shifted herself into her legs as she tried to close her eyes. Don't let him fire that. You don't know what it's going to do. She stifled a small cry as she remembered that week ago. She had blocked the attacker that had killed Yukimaru. He held no remorse over it. Neither did Kobayashi. Neither of them cared about it at all. Was she the only one who did? Why had she done it? Oh yeah, that's right, it was her duty to have all of Orochimaru's wishes fulfilled. Like some damn girl at some damn academy looking at a hot boy. What was she to do now? Her resistance had left her with nothing. She didn't feel like breaking out with her shoten. She didn't feel like fighting anymore. She just wanted to see Yukimaru again. Yukimaru, Gurren said. She could hear Sugetsu complained about his confinement, but that was to be expected. Soon Gurren heard a tapping noise on her wall and she looked up. Gurren-san, are you okay? Karen asked. Gurren didn't answer, so Karen pressed on. We have to get out of here. Orochimaru-sama is waiting for us, she said. Orochimaru. 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 Damn it, him to hell, this was all his fault. It was all Akatsuki's fault for wanting the damn Bayu. It was Sato's fault for even being an A. It was Kobayashi's fault for not getting to protect Yukimaru. It was everyone's fault. Gurren snarled as bit her thumb. She quickly watched as B drew from it as she quickly poured it over a little crystal that she was able to make with her current reserves. It spilled over the crystal, turning it a dark red color instead of the usual pink. Don't worry, Yukimaru, I won't let them get away with this. I'll make them pay, even if I have to work for Konoha or any other village, I will make them pay. Gurren said as she got up and the wall, getting Karen to back away. You go if you want, as for me, I'm done being AF, puppet. I will not give in to that bastard's demands anymore. All. Gurren shouted and Karen was taken back by her tone. She slightly backed away from the door while Gurren walked around the room. Hey, Gurren called out and a Chunin came to the door. What do you want? He asked and Gurren grinned. I humbly request an audience with Hokage-sama. I would like to know if there was any possibility of me getting back at the damn bastard who did this to me, Gurren said, and the Chunin scoffed. Please, it's not like Hokage-sama would have the time to listen to the whims of a prisoner, the Chunin said while Gurren growled. Now who told you that? The Chunin gasped and so did Gurren as Naruto appeared right behind him. Rokudaime-sama, he said as Naruto patted his shoulder and passed the man. He walked up to the bars that separated him from Gurren. She got a really good look at him and Naruto smiled. Honestly, if it wasn't for Kimimaro and Tayuya vouching for you, then I wouldn't even consider this. Tell me, why should I let you out? Naruto asked. Gurren looked at the ground and contemplated her next words. There was no one that she was going to get past him. The world knew about the Rokudaime and his abilities. It was actually really rare to have not heard about him. Because I do not want to bring harm to your village. Looking back on what I've done, I would like to correct my mistakes and make some new ones. There is something that I must do for myself. I humbly request this from you, Gurren said. Sugetsu all of a sudden was quiet and so was Karen. They both couldn't believe their ears. Naruto narrowed his eyes while Gurren showed him absolute conviction. He then folded his arms and closed his eyes. Multiple thoughts went through his head as he did this. As the Hokage, he couldn't just act on feelings and he had to keep the village at heart. Letting around someone who associated with Orochimaru was bad enough, but then again he did let Itachi back, and Kimimaro and Tayuya used to work for Orochimaru also until Naruto convinced them both. Would he be turning hypocritical? Open her cell, Naruto said, and the Chunin widened his eyes. Gurren did also while Naruto smiled. Don't think I'm going to give you an easy time. I expect the best out of my shinobi, Naruto said, and Gurren agreed. Understood. Hokage-sama, Gurren said as she walked past the jails. Traitor, Sugetsu shouted, but Gurren ignored it. She didn't care if she was a traitor. She first became a traitor to Yukimaru when she had made those stupid orders. Now was the time to start correcting them. She knew that her life in Konoha wouldn't be easy, but it would be a lot better than ever saying that she was still with Orochimaru. She snorted to Sugetsu's response and walked off with Naruto. As they exited the house, Naruto smiled and held out his hand. Welcome to Konoha, Gurren-san, Naruto said, and Gurren nodded. Thank you very much, Hokage-sama, she said, getting Naruto to nod. Hokage-sama, a Jonin shouted as Naruto turned his head fast. Gurren raised an eyebrow while the Jonin dropped to the ground. It was Kurenai and she was panting heavily. She gasped for air while Naruto held her. Kurenai-chan, what's wrong? Naruto asked. Kurenai panted and grabbed Naruto's shoulders. KK Kanari-san. She's in labor, Kurenai said, and Naruto gasped. What? But it's not 9 months yet. Naruto shouted and Kurenai nodded. She leaned up and didn't have the time to notice Gurren looking at them confused as ever. Tsunade-sama told us that there were unexpected element to Abijuu's birth as it hadn't been ever recorded. She's back at the house and seals have been placed by Jiraiya-sama, Kushina-sama and Fu. The Inuzuka are posted around the entire house. No one is getting in without a say from Kushina-sama or Tsunade-sama. Kurenai panted and Naruto cursed. Tenzo, take Gurren-chan to Hokage Mansion. I'll be there later, Naruto said, and Tenzo, who had hopped down to answer his Hokage, accepted and escorted Gurren away. Suddenly Naruto jumped into the air. Another one databio. I'm gonna be a dad again. Naruto shouted as he grabbed Kurenai and harassed home. UNI compound. Naruto landed to the ground quickly as he noticed Kyubi in her room panting heavy. Tsunade, Shizune and Haku were there as they helped Kyubi through her process. With his Byakugan, Naruto could see the dozens of members standing outside the house in all directions. It wasn't going to be a repeat of last time, not if they had anything to say about it. And just for good measure, Kushina was blocking the doorway. Tayuya and Kimimaro were on the rooftops, Yugao had the Inuzuka stationed around the house, Yugito and Fu were at the front door while Hana and Tsume were a little further out. Kasumi and Yuna were carefully being guarded by Kiba, Akamaru and the Heimaru brothers. Kyubi-chan, are you okay? Naruto asked as Kyubi glared at him. What do you think? She hollered, but Naruto gave her a quick K and Kyubi sighed irritatedly. She then smiled suddenly and grabbed Naruto's hand. Why wasn't I told about this? I thought you said that she would be due in the regular 9 months, Naruto said while Tsunade growled. I said it was uncertain if she was because she was a Beiyu. I told you to be on the ready at all times in care. I was wrong. And Kami, was I wrong? Tsunade replied. Naruto-kun, Kyubi said, and Naruto smiled as he grabbed her hand. Shizune and Haku smiled, but Tsunade was less like it. Enough of that. Now then, I can't believe I'm about to say this or that I'm doing this, but anyway. Kyubi. Push. Tsunade shouted and Kyubi shouted as she grabbed Naruto's hand. The blonde quickly did the same as before and channeled his chakra through his boy to keep Kyubi from turning his hand to jelly. Instantly Kyubi's chakra flared around her body, but Naruto forced it down with his own. Haku was using her ice affinity to calm Kyubi down while Shizune and Tsunade worked tediously. Push. Shizune called next and Kyubi growled while Naruto tried to soothe her with encouragements. Outside, people could feel the high levels of chakra saturating the air. It all reminded them of Kyubi, but they knew why and they didn't really care. She had done nothing and she long made up for it. Yugao smiled as did Jiraiya, Kakashi, Fu, Yugito, Kiba, Hana, Tsume, Kasumi, Kurenai, Kimimaro, and Tayuya. Kyubi snarled as she pulled more chakra out of her body to help her deal with the pressure, but Naruto kept forcing it down. He suppressed it with his own and Kyubi felt a little irritated, but God was Kasumi right. It really did her like AB, even for Beiyu. Push. Tsunade said and Kyubi pushed more quickly while she hollered, sort of getting Naruto to wince, but he just smiled. He kissed Kyubi's cheek while Kyubi turned to him. Naruto-kun, thank you, Kyuubi said unexpectedly. Naruto chuckled and couldn't stop the sudden smile or tears from his face. I should be saying that to you, Naruto said while Tsunade alerted to them both. I see the head. Another push Kyuubi, Tsunade commanded. Kyuubi groaned but pushed again. 2 hours of labor and Kyuubi leaned against the bed. She panted heavily while Haku rubbed her soft skin with a washcloth. Kyuubi looked over to Naruto and the blonde smiled. One more push, Tsunade shouted. Rah! Kyuubi shouted as she used all the strength that she could muster. She fell to the bed and closed her eyes. Crying filled the room as she gasped. Tsunade smiled and Shizune see the umbilical cord. Congratulations Rokudaime-sama, it's a boy, Tsunade said and Naruto smiled as he took the boy in his arm. His crying was made evident and Naruto chuckled. His blonde hair, red eyes. His tiny feet and his tiny hands. Ah! Kyuubi shouted as Naruto and the others gasped. Shizune and Tsunade knelt down as they opened her up. Get ready for another one. She shouted. Naruto gasped while Kyuubi shouted again. What? I thought it was only one. Naruto asked and Tsunade shook her head. It looks like that wasn't the case, Tsunade said and Naruto handed his newborn son to Haku who quickly wrapped him up. 2 more hours of screaming later, Kyuubi cried from this much pain and leaned back as Tsunade took the next one. More crying was heard as Tsunade wrapped up the next one. It's another girl Rokudaime-sama, Tsunade said and Naruto cradled the next one. A girl with red hair, red eyes and whisker marks. Looks like Naruto wouldn't be having trouble identifying the twins. He smiled while Kyuubi panted tiredly. She lightly chuckled to herself and sniffed. Can I see them? She asked. Naruto turned to Tsunade and Shizune, both nodded while Naruto picked up his kids and leaned them over to Kyuubi. Both sleeping peacefully. Kyuubi smiled while Naruto chuckled. Mine. They are really mine. What did I do to deserve such a thing? Kyuubi thought to herself as she couldn't stop the beaming smile on her face. Naruto sat next to her on the bed as he handed one to her. Kyuubi took her daughter as she tried to open her eyes. Hello you. You're my daughter you know. I'm sorry for keeping you a secret from Naruto-kun. Don't worry I promise to be a good mother, Kyuubi said and Naruto smiled as the two shared AK. They parted while Tsunade took a pad. Do you have names? Tsunade asked and Naruto turned to Kyuubi. You name them, Naruto said and Kyuubi widened her eyes. She looked down at the girl and smiled. Our girl is Momiji. Our son is Naruto-kun, you name him. I want you to, Kyuubi said and Naruto nodded. He held his son up in the air and grinned happily. Say hello to Yutara, Naruto said as the boy looked at his father. Naruto smiled and Kyuubi nodded. She nodded to Tsunade and Shizune. Alright then, Momiji and Yutara Uzumaki Namikaze. Now then, Kanari-san, get some rest. The twins must do the same for they are also tired, Shizune said and Kyuubi nodded. She gave Naruto a peck on the cheek and quickly fell asleep. Naruto nodded as he quickly left. He opened the door and closed it. Kushina looked at her son expectingly while Naruto refused to hold in the grin anymore. Twins. He hollered at the top of his voice. Somewhere else. Sanbi's body was being carried away as Sato, Tobi and Deodara started to drag it away. Well that wasn't so hard Deodara said while Tobi pretended to sleep. Oi Tobi I told you that Akatsuki are supposed to be quiet and cool, but now you're being weird. And if it's you then that's saying something, Deodara said. He looked down and he noticed Tobi snoring. Damn you, Katsu! Deodara shouted, but before they could hit the ground Sato s them all in half. HMPH damn lucky bodyguard, Deodara said as he folded his arms while the Sanbi was dragged away to be sealed. That will be all for this video, be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos, goodbye.